Shrimad's Divine Grace, Founder of ISKCON Abhay Charanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Granth Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Kunja Vihari Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Nitai Go Hari. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru Ji Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti, verse 44, right? 44. Sutta Uvacha Sutta Uvacha Pritayetam Kala Padai Pritayetam Kala Padai Parinuta Kilodaya Parinuta Kilodaya Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mohayan Eva Mayaya Mohayan Eva Mayaya Sutta Vacha Pritayetam Kalapadai Parinuta Kilodaya Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mohayan Eva Mayaya Sutta Vacha Pritayetam Kalapadai Parinuta Kilodaya Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mohayan Eva Mayaya. Please chant. Sutta Vacha Pritayetam Kalapadai Parinuta Kilodaya Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mohayan Eva Mayaya. Sutta Vacha Sutta said Pritaya by Prita Mother Kunti Itam this Kalapadai by chosen words Parinuta being worshipped Akila universal Udaya glories Mandam mildly Jahasa smiled Vaikunta the Lord Mohayan captivating Eva light Mayaya is mystic power Sutta Vacha Pritayetam Kalapadai Parinuta Kilodaya Mandam Jahasa Vaikunto Mohayan Eva Mayaya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for His glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was enchanting as His mystic power. Please repeat. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for His glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as His mystic power. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for His glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was enchanting as His mystic power. Purport. Anything that is enchanting in the world is said to be a representation of the Lord. The conditioned souls who are engaged in trying to lord it over the material world are also enchanted by his mystic powers. But his devotees are enchanted in a different way, by the glories of the Lord, and his merciful blessings are upon them. His energy is displayed in different ways. As electrical energy works in manifold capacities, Shrimati Kunti Devi has prayed to the Lord just to enunciate a fragment of his glories. All his devotees worship him in that way, by chosen words, and therefore the Lord is known as Uttama Shloka. No amount of chosen words is sufficient to enumerate the Lord's glory, and yet he is satisfied by such prayers as the Father is satisfied even by the broken linguistic attempts of the growing child. The word Maya is used both in the sense of delusion and mercy. Herein, the word Maya is used in the sense of the Lord's mercy upon Kunti Devi. Om Jnanatamirandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshusmirmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is a continuation here. Srila Goswami explaining the situation of Kunti Devi composing prayers to Krishna. I was enunciating the other day on how when we recite prayers, when we're directly worshiping on the altar, these prayers have been given before Srila Prabhupada established the temples. These form this communication between Krishna and his devotees have been established since time immemorial. And so those prayers that are enunciated are given to us to be enunciated by us, so that we are not left to our own concoctions. And so this also deals with the way in our minds, more than likely, before you're completely familiar with Krishna consciousness, the question will come, why bow down to stone statues, right? I mean, that's what most people would think coming into a temple. But these statues, as you may call them, icons, murti forms is what we prefer to call a form that Krishna is choosing to take in this age to protect us from committing offenses in his very presence, in this form that he's not accepting offenses the way he normally would. People have gotten their heads cut off for saying things offensively. But as is revealed in other scriptures, it's a very severe offense for human beings to think they can concoct with their minds a form that is worshipable. So this is not the form that we are here worshiping. By the designations given, when Krishna manifests, every particular form he manifests in manifests different features particular to his personality. So we know the size in relationship to the rest of his body. So this is how the deity form manifests. And the deity form specifically is found with the rock facing a certain position, facing east. And they also must be in the place where there are rivers and there are trees with certain markings on them. And so these forms are not carved out by the imaginations of men. And then, before the deity is inhabited, you may say, or manifest by the Supreme Lord's own very presence, a fire sacrifice is performed in which the spiritual master makes a request to the Supreme Person to accept worship through this form. And so wherein in other civilizations, this is the contrary-wise way we have of thinking in our minds, that God tells another group of people not to create idols, right? And he condemns it, actually, as a very offensive act to do, putting an idol that a man has created in his mind above the Supreme Person himself. But we are doing this in accordance with the instruction given by those who have immediate personal contact with the Supreme Person, Sri Krishna himself. And in times past in manifestations, when he was in the form of a king as Lord Ram, a prince before being put in the throne, his mother took a position against him, wanting her own, because his father had more than one queen. Another of the queens wanted to have her own son on the throne. So this is what is known as Ramayana, the whole story of how Ram is confined to the forest for 12 years by his mother's doing, and the love of Sita for him, which normal princesses would choose to remain in the palace until he returns. Mm-hmm. But for her love for Ram, she went with Ram to the forest. And so the whole idea was in Ram, because Bharat did not want to have that position his mother was putting him into. In place of Ram, Bharat took Ram's shoes and put them on top of his head. Mm-hmm. This is an exercise in Vedic culture that you are accrediting the person you're putting the shoes on to being superior to you. And by this act as well, he took Lord Ram's shoes and put them on the throne, signifying that Lord Ram was actually the king, even though he was being confined to the forest by the mother of the son. So see, this is also showing love that Bharat had as well for Krishna in the form of Lord Ram. By these stories that have come to be known as epics, which are actually histories, very histories of India's own origins, all of them, irregardless of whether we believe there's a God or not, all of them so intricately display characteristics of humanity and human beings at large, and we see the interactions of them taking place in such an educational way, so that whether a child is being taught these things or not, they learn the proper etiquettes of life. That is why Srila Prabhupada called these books the law books for the next 10,000 years, which are written in such a way. See, if they would, in prison houses, have reading of such books going on, could transform. And you might be one of those that Krishna appoints to be able to do that, to bring this Bhagavatam to the prisoners. Or to the hospital. Right now there are people in the rooms they call DNR, do not resuscitate. They know they're on their way out, and they're breathing their last breaths. And you could be the very means they have of going back to Godhead by your putting into their consciousness the very reality of the person and activities of the person, the very dearmost person all of us should be hoping to eventually be able to attain the personal association of the Supreme Person himself, Krishna. Yeah. And see, we have this available to us. Now, when we surrender to Krishna, Krishna makes available to us, through us, abilities that we wouldn't even in our minds think of doing. But these can be very simple acts in society. Bringing a friend a plate of food that you got from the temple that was offered to Krishna. Being offered with love. Maybe this person has a bitter viewpoint towards life. But when the act of kindness itself, maybe they've had thoughts about life not being worth living anymore. But your very act of bringing them a plate of spiritualized food could be so meaningful to them that they start to take on a completely different viewpoint of life itself. And maybe you become a very important aspect of them. This is how we, as followers, become gurus, teachers to others. And we don't have to think of ourselves as exalted or better, because we know we ourselves were also living in the same mud puddle that the material universe is, waddling in it like hogs and dogs and cats and rats and all these things. But now that we've come to this human form, and especially since we've come to the conclusion the Vedas are revealing to us that so significantly we have this human form of life at this very precise time in history, that God is revealing the innermost, He Himself calls the most confidential knowledge. Now, we know amongst ourselves things we consider we have things in our mind that we consider to ourselves to be very confidential. Maybe conversations we've had with someone of the opposite sex, or close admittance we've had with other friends of things we've committed that we shouldn't have. We share these things as things that build our friendship and our trust to be able to give. I can tell you things that I hope you won't tell anybody else, that kind of thing, right? We build friendships like that. So God, in His ultimate superior wisdom of all, who is the original source of all friendships now, revealing to us the meaning of what friendship is to Him, to give to us the insight, the confidential knowledge of everything in life. Why the birds are in the form they are in, why the trees are in the form they are in, how the tongue is satisfied by certain foodstuffs, how it comes into place in this world originally, how the moon is set as in it, all these things, all these mysteries that most people don't even in an entire lifetime don't even question about. What to speak of them having their mind, their consciousness filled with the record of. See, God's mind has the record of everything. Yeah. In access to it. And sharing our bodies with us then, when we make Him our friend, He has been reaching out to us to become His friend for so long, that now when we surrender, He wants to embrace us with His wisdom. He wants to embrace our minds, encapsulate our minds how can we say saturate our minds with that wisdom of his own doing, so that we know how to respond in every circumstance. We know who to trust in every set of circumstances as well, and who to pray to know what's coming, and who to pray to as Mother Kunti Devi is doing, not only for herself. She's praying for the well-being of all the living beings. And so we see this love that she has in her heart for all these living beings, in that when the person who has brought her own children killed them in their sleep, too young even in the wake state to put up much of a fight. And yet she's of such a forgiving nature. She couldn't accept that they wanted to cause the suffering of his mother to be experienced the same way she was experiencing it for her children. And she didn't want it to be causing the suffering on another mother just for the loss of one son. So this is the nature of love. And this love has value, whether people are believing in God or not. And this is what I find in the superiority of Krishna consciousness, because all these virtues that are accredited with being that which Christians should develop in their life, by the activities we engage in Krishna consciousness, you can't help. When you're surrendering to an institution, you're not living under your own roof, you're not following your own rules, you're not desiring for yourself what should be or what would be or could be. You're not wanting to change anything the way it is. Everything's perfect, all right. So Krishna gives you a viewpoint that we couldn't develop on our own. And this is the meaning of Krishna consciousness, to be able to see every day he's giving us activities to engage in. This Gayatri mantra, when you get a thread, every day you chant Gayatri on this thread and it accumulates. People do not know, entering into Krishna consciousness, the value of serving God, because they're limited to the viewpoint given by the paths being presented in the world as spiritual paths that give limited perspectives to the people those paths specifically were given to. When you look at Judaism, it's a specific group of people who have within their ritualistic performances rites that were given to them for a specific time and circumstance, out of a specific place, coming out of slavery even. And the laws that were given to them to adjust to the mentality that they had when they were brought out of slavery, to, as a means of mercy, give them some means of living in a desert. It is said in the Vedic scriptures that being born in the desert itself is a curse. So if being born in the desert is itself a curse, what to speak of being born into slavery? And then when being freed from slavery, then jumping from slavery into a desert.
For 40 years.
For 40 years. And then so that they would die off. So that that punishable generation that was put into that slavery brought forth a more suitable generation with a more suitable consciousness towards appreciation of life and the fact that God was giving them a way of deliverance and a promise of a nation, a promise of a new way of life, and a promise of a Savior. a savior that would come with the ability to transform this planet by the rule that previously had been experienced by the planet. When the planet was left, can you imagine, now we were talking the other day about the Tower of Babel. Now, if this is an accurate account, and it is said that these people all spoke one language at one time. So if there are people from every nation in the world taking part in the building of this tower, and suddenly now, they're all confused. They're all knocked down from the building of this tower, and they can't even understand each other. So there's no longer one ruler, emperor. There's no longer one government. You see how the breaking down of smaller parts breaks down the big whole. And that's where spirituality is now, broken up into tiny bits and pieces of people having little tiny bits and pieces here and there. And the superiority, everybody wants to claim their own superiority, but the superiority of Veda is its inclusiveness of all of them. And it's revealing intimate nature by God, revealing to us why He established those other ways. And how now this path that He's giving to us as Dharma is the easiest way. Singing a song that links you to Him. Every time you sing it, you say to Him how much you love Him. Every time you sing and chant this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Because the chanting of these holy names, bringing to the ears of the one who is sharing this body with you, the God, the supreme controller, who has Himself established this as the greatest means, takes pleasure in your singing of that as though it were the same as His own flute playing. This is described in the writing Hari Bhakti Vilas, written by an intimate most associate of Lord Chaitanya himself, Sanatana Goswami, available online. And you can see the benefit of all these daily activities we take part in, and take part in as a matter of life's activity, something that we are filling our life with is something to do. But the benefits of doing it, then Lord Chaitanya reveals. And see, as you're coming without knowledge of it, you're doing it without expectation of anything in return, which is described as pure love. So just like a child who comes into the world, and Bhagavatam explains how a grown-up adult who has children just loves the sound of their voices. They have a purity, and their questions about things that inspire within us to revive that childlike thoughtfulness about how the universe is, how the body works, what's good, what's bad, what should we eat, these things. Well, when they're spoken out of the mouth of a child whose body has not been yet used for its own aggrandizement of the false ego, it has not yet had that false ego's ability to exercise itself in this world. It sounds to us like a purity. And so we develop that longing to hear that purity. So why I'm bringing this up is, several years ago, I was finding myself, with this thing that we call memory loss. Where'd you place your keys? What'd you go into this room for? 5 seconds ago, I was thinking I was coming in here for something. Well, there are known herbal preparations that are an aid and as well a cure for these things. So I found out about a mushroom called lion's mane mushroom. So I started taking some, and I admit, see, our philosophy says not to use mushrooms. It's a form of fungus. But we also have the philosophy that when a doctor prescribes you medicine, it's temporarily to be used to heal the body. Once you get healed, finished. So I started taking this mushroom. When I was a teenager, I had memory as a teenager that I was building, that I didn't know at the time I was building it, of listening to rock and roll music. It's almost a constant everyday thing. I play with headphones on my, all the things was an activity with headphones on. So taking this lion's mane mushroom, all of a sudden all these old rock and roll music tunes come into my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my God, is this going to be good or bad? Krishna says, okay, I am remembrance and forgetfulness. So see, some things are not worth remembering. So then now, this was several years ago, they're finding out, I think it's Harvard University did some investigating of how to cure this Alzheimer's as well, and they found that honey has some qualities in it that helps fight some form of bacteria that they are finding responsible for eating away portions of the brain that's being used for memory. But honey fights off those bacteria and rebuilds those brain cells. So I decided, well, I'll take a little bit of honey. Then I got started in my mind, I hear Shirley Temple singing songs. But see, it reminded me, when I was a kid, I used to watch Shirley Temple movies. She was portrayed as a young girl, about 5 years old, and her voice was so pure. She gained great fame. If you've ever watched one of those movies, it's Heidi, the development of the relationship with her and her older grandfather, who had lost his touch of love for things in life that matter to most people. And she brought it back to him, you could say. And it was a very touching thing. But see, some parts of memory we have stored are for our good. Some parts of memory we have stored, we've asked God forgiveness of. And in so doing, we get wiped out. He says, I am also forgetfulness. And if in this life all we are accumulating in our minds or using our minds for are things that we are not going to be able to carry into the next life, better to come in with a clean slate. And we see that with people coming into Krishna consciousness. If people already have their minds made up about who they know God to be or they believe God to be, when they find out what Krishna says about some things, sometimes it differs from the conclusions they've drawn about who God is and what God has said. Especially due to the fact that He has given it at different times to different groups of people. He Himself has made the statement that idol worship is against His ways. So we also share that same belief. And worship of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada said, in the form of the deity, can turn into idol worship by the consciousness we develop toward Krishna. This is why Srila Prabhupada always reveals to us the mentality we have to have in our lives towards God. I am your servant, and I'm surrendered to you. And this bhakti that He's giving us the great privilege to engage in, we can't look at it as work the same way we look at work in the material world. It's not like that. It's an eternal, establishing that eternal, reestablishing. In most of our cases, we're coming back and being called back by God himself to that relationship we had with him, to restore it again, so that we can know the happiness that we had with him, that we left off from, that we thought we could find here in the material universe. And he wants to restore us to that original place with him. Yeah. And we've forgotten that because we've been in the material universe for so long. Millions of manifestations of life forms. We've been through 8 million species of life to get to human form. Now there are amongst us saviors who are coming here by desire, who most of humanity are developing fear of. These UFOs, aliens, people from other planets. But there is a longing for those who have gone to the heavenly planets, who have now full realization of the fact that this is not the spiritual world. And there are wars going on. The Bible even admits this. There are wars going on in heaven. You want to live in a place eternally where there's war? No. I don't think so. We got a hard enough time dealing with war 5,000 miles away here. You know, just even thinking about the fact that there are wars going on in the world that have people engaged in it that want to kill each other. This is their aim. This is their hope. This is why they develop their physical abilities to kill people. But they're, in some cases, and in most cases on both sides, for the same cause. They believe they're fighting for justice. They believe they're fighting for the cause of God in some cases. Both sides. And they're both praying to God. Give me the ability to kill my enemy. And they're both enemies. What are we going to do? And God's giving a path free from all that. And he gives that path in the middle of a battlefield as well. But because it is not clear on what he wants done in this age, he comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya. To himself take the form of the servant that he wants us to be. He goes in the temple, after everybody has cleaned the temple, then he goes around and cleans and finds a bigger pile of stuff than everybody else got. How come by? This is Krishna. He's the cleanest, he's the purest, he's the strongest, he's the funniest, he's the happiest, he's the savingest, most glorious, most beautiful, most attractive, most knowledgeable, most beneficial. You can all. This is what Sheshanag does.
Most attractive.
Sheshanag, this is all he does is glorify Krishna. And he's never repeated himself in all of eternity. Because Krishna has so many amazing aspects about his personality. And we can all day just think about that. And that in itself is a perfection of human life. Because God is a perfection of humanity. He's the perfect human. In every manifestation he manifests as, he becomes the perfect human of that environment, in that dwelling. So just like also the one they're calling Jesus Christ, when he came into a specific tradition of people, Judaism, he practiced that in perfection as well. But it is said in the scriptures of him, bread, honey and butter shall he eat all the days of his life. That he shall know to choose between the good and the evil. And here is impacted. Now I'm getting insight from Krishna right now, what we call confidential knowledge. Because if you're not a vegetarian and you look at that thing, you're just talking about his meal, right? But inflected in the inference that restricting one's diet to this kind of food gives one a mentality of gentleness, meekness, humility, not wanting to kill. In that cow's affection for its offspring, the animal being born in the mode of goodness, incorporates that consciousness. The learning young get from their parents comes in the size of millions through their mother's love for them in the form of the milk. And when it is given to Krishna by the cows that Krishna brings forth as his closest associates, that love is poured to him in the form of milk. And it causes an ocean. We were talking about this, I think, yesterday even. So that milk is so abundant in the bags of these cows that Krishna's made for this specific purpose. When God wants an ocean, he makes cows produce it for him. And in the churning of that ocean, it is revealed. We're talking about the very beginning of this universe. We're not talking about 5,000 years ago. The entire lifetime of this universe, Krishna describes as going to be 311 trillion, 400 billion trips of the earth around the sun, as we count years, right? 311 trillion, 400 billion years, of which 52% have passed. This is the way it's been being given for me to know, because we're being told that Lord Brahma has 100 years and 52 of his years have passed. So I'm saying 52%. He's going to live as long as the universe. He's going to be there for the dance of Lord Shiva. And the more and more I read these Vedas, the more I realize there are more long-living, eternal souls taking that servant form of Krishna in the universe as preachers. And sometimes Krishna gives them their own planet to bring progeny into this universe. There are so many progeny waiting to be born that are not born, that are lying in dormancy, to give them an opportunity to take birth and what to speak if they have someone self-realized who's a ruler of the planet, what to speak if that ruler of the planet has the ability to choose when he leaves his body. He can stay there for as long as the universe lasts. There are many of such souls. We don't come to find that out. And even in first exposure, my first time through Bhagavatam, I didn't realize these things. It was a nice story. A glorious story about God. I thought there's no other books like it, but nothing to the extent of the realizations I'm getting now about what God gives to his intimate associates. I had no idea in my mind coming out of Christianity, which I thought was the superior most teaching in all the world at the time. This Bhagavatam is really something. Really something. And the fact that we have it constantly to be able to absorb from it the nature that is contained within its absorption becomes a part of us. So that little hint there is, honey and butter shall he eat all the days of his life. Why? So he shall be able to know, to judge between good and evil. So this is what we're saying prasadam is as well. But see, we see with every account being spoken of by him, the one they're calling the Savior, who may very well be the next emperor of the world. Every account we have of him using food to distribute to people, he's offering it to God. But the intimate knowledge about how he does that, the confidential prayers that he speaks when that is done, is not given in the Bible. So he gives a prayer in general lifestyle for people to pray every day in the morning, evening, possibly at night as well. But he doesn't give specifically how to offer food. And how food, because they would take this and offer meat. See? And that's good reason I'm getting that realization now. People who are believing that animals can be offered as a sacrifice for sin then would take those prayers and offer them to their God, believing that in their minds to be the means of satisfying God, and that's not satisfying God. He's not pleased with the animal's flesh. He's not pleased with the dead flesh of animals. And that's how the same one they're calling the Savior, he called these people that were doing this sepulchres. What a sepulcher is, right? A grave. What is he meaning by that? A grave is a place where you put dead bodies. And that's what he was saying. These people are using the body for, the human body, to put dead bodies in it. He's not talking about peaches and plums and pears and the fruit of the vine or milk and honey. He's talking about those dead flesh animals, the flesh of animals, right, which got confused because they made demands of Moses. We have to have the flesh that we had when we were slaves. We have to have the onions. We have to have the leeks. We had to have the same diet. At least you're bringing us out into this desert place. You got to feed us at least as good as we were being fed as slaves. That was their demand. God, in his ultimate love, he had to protect Moses from these people. They were going to stone Moses, the one that freed them from slavery. You're going to stone him. Srila Prabhupada. Years after he established the movement, they wanted to kick him out.
Real goofy.
Same thing. See what happens to saintly people. Saintly people, having the greatest treasure human beings can find, in their pursuit to give freedom to human beings, many times are killed by those very human beings, like animals biting the hands that feed them. And see, if we don't have the proper perspective of these saintly souls, we won't know how close they are to God. Then we can commit offenses against God by speaking against them. So we have to treat very delicately our perspective on any saintly person. Martin Luther King, George Washington, he had a dream given to him, he said, by God. Abraham Lincoln. All these souls of past, hoping to gain heaven, promised heaven by the soul who says he's coming back here in the future. He's sending them to heaven, and he's going to be here. So where is heaven going to be then? Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. This is a prayer he gave for the general public to follow as a regular daily function, like Srila Prabhupada's giving us a regular daily function of read, Brahma, Samhita. But in that regular daily function, we recognize that there are very intimate meanings to the statements being made, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Now, we could take it to mean that the earth is dwelling in heaven. Thy will be done in earth because it's in heaven, as it is in heaven, right? Or we could take it to mean that we want your will to be done, the same will that your will is being done in heaven. Which means there is a kingdom in heaven. Which means there is a king. One ruler in heaven. That's the way it is. It is a kingdom. Now, it could be said, as they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Whose empowered to be able to sit on such a throne without being corrupted. Who can do that? You have to be empowered by God. Otherwise, the whole world, which it is right now, in confusion. People fighting each other on both sides for the same cause don't even know they can look each other in the face, don't even know they're fighting for the same cause. And killing each other and doing that. In their consciousness, they hold that cause they're fighting for. In each other's consciousness, they hold it in the same place. The cause they're fighting for. I'm fighting for the cause of God. The other side believes I'm fighting for the cause of God. And what those causes manifest as, in particular, is also individually unique. And some people, because they take religion for their own cause, they cause their followers to fall down into the same karmic reaction that they get for their egotistic manipulation of religion. So even though it may be looked at as a great cause, some of these quote-unquote preachers who have twisted the laws of God, and in the name so-called of God, and I'm coming to find out, I believe, this is why God doesn't give them their name, His name. Because of all the things they're doing and what they believe to be His name reveals. And the fact that it's being revealed that these are things He preaches against doing, then it reveals the fact that God, foreseeing in the future that these people would misuse His authority, misuse His use. That's why He's not in these courtrooms. Most of these churches, He's not even in these churches. If He walked through the doors, they would kick Him out. Homeless, wearing clothes we never saw before. Long hair, beard, never shaved. The last time He shaved. So they have perceptions, people have perceptions who become great, powerful authorities because of their use and their ability to misuse or use, as they believe it to be, the material energy. So to bring my point out, if you become a famous person before surrendering to God, you're carrying that fame with you. And those followers are going to follow like you. They're following you because you believe. So, same time, isn't it? Is that thing on a timer or what?
Yes.
Time for me to shut up. 9 o'clock.
You put soap or something inside of here?
It is 9 o'clock.
You put soap or something inside of that thing?
No, it's a vacuum cleaner.
I thought it cleans the floor.
Vacuum.
I'm talking about the lights going on.
Yeah, the lights on times. I think
They
it's
are
2
on
hours.
time. You're talking about the vacuum cleaner. That might be on a timer. Well, I guess I'm on a timer.
You don't have to, you guys.
Don't have to. That's true. We're not for it.
Finish your thought.
But we could leave it open for questions at this point because if I rattle on, I might be talking about things that nobody's interested in. But if I get your viewpoints and you share your mind with me, even if it's only 2 cents worth, we'll make it into $1 million in a couple of minutes here. Any comments, any questions, any realization? Yes. Thank you for coming again. It's good to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, yesterday I could not sleep during the night, so I get up in the morning. I was at an event where there was
I hope the microphone's picking this up. Our microphone is right on this thing here.
We just talked to it.
We just talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was at an event where there was a bunch of people from a seminary, Calvin College, with a Christian Reformed Church, And of course, we're really big on not making graven images.
Yeah.
And I asked one of those guys.
I'm glad I brought that up this morning then. Now you're telling me I hit on the right subject matter.
What you started out with was just right where I was, or where I came from. But I asked him, what is the difference between an image and a graven image? And he didn't know, and I had to admire his candor there.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
Because it does say we are made in the image of God.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on what's the difference there.
Well, see, that's true. In the likeness, the image is said to be the likeness. So God, in that form, having 2 eyes, a nose, 2 arms, like that. There are other forms of human beings that have what would be considered 2 arms, 2 legs, but they're not made of the same substances. They're on other planets. 400,000 species of human beings. And see, what we're doing on our planet is we're separating ourselves into different races, but we're not even different races. Just because different colors of our skin from exposure to the sun, we're all the same race. But because certain nations have different exposures to the sun than people that live in those areas. It's like if you live up north, your skin turns yellow by exposure to the cold all the time as well. Same like in southern regions as well, you get darker skin. But if we saw, like for example, I was talking about the snake people, there is a whole race of people that are snakes, but they walk on 2 legs. But they are right now restrained and confined to the inner earth. But that wall of separation between us, when the ice caps are melted, is going to be broken down. That is the wall. The ice caps are the wall of separation. There are mammoth elephants in there. There are birds of paradise in there. It is a tropical land in the Middle Earth I'm talking about that has been since time immemorial. It is described as the Garden of Eden in the Bible. It is described as the Promised Land in the Bible. But there are entrances to it throughout the world by, we read in Bhagavatam, great men they were giants. At a time when men could be, they were 50 feet tall, and they had ability to do things mechanically that we don't to this day. Just like today, they can't explain how the pyramids were built because we don't to this day have a machine that can lift just the covering of those pyramids. But from exposure to previous civilizations, which I had the good fortune of being able to come in contact with before becoming a devotee, I learned that these pyramids are used in the balancing of the Earth's makeup. And by the exposure to the floods that it has had in the past, some of these pyramids, their balance is gone. And now that's why it's out of kilter. This that we take to be normal, that we are saying makes our seasons, is of an extreme nature now. And it was not always of the same extreme. And it's going to be returned. But when it is returned, the caps will melt. They're returning it by the building of 52 pyramids in the Middle Earth. You can read about the Middle Earth in Bhagavatam, but little is spoken of about it because it looks to me as though, as well, Krishna doesn't want prematurely constant, commercial airlines and this kind of thing flying back and forth through there. That civilization that is in there that is developed peacefully. Can you imagine? We have a problem. We're the same race. And we discriminate amongst each other, calling ourselves better and worse because of the color of the skin. Can you imagine if we were actually different races, what kind of discrimination it would be having? If there were snake people,
Right.
what kind of discrimination would we be making then? So, but these people are living in harmony with one another. They don't want to bring our disharmony into there. Why would they? So, see, we have to also develop the respect of everything in this universe. Elon Musk, he thinks he has the right to go to the moon. And who else went to the moon? They think they have the right. It's theirs to do the conquer, divide and conquer, take it, it's ours to do. As they believe the commandments from God to be, take dominion over the earth. But contained within the word is also care and responsibility with that. Not kill everything you see in sight. On this continent, before my quote-unquote white race, people came on here, the Europeans came on here, there were millions and millions and millions of people we now call Native American Indians. And they were wiped out. There was a massacre that took place that nobody had, they didn't record it as something that needed to be spoken of in future generations. There were 90 million Lakota Indians. That's one tribe. And we know there to be more than 50 tribes. There could have been hundreds or even thousands of tribes. The same way the slaughter of the buffalo was looked at as necessary for the preservation of what was looked at as the human race, the future for the population of this continent. But that story needs to be told because amongst the people looked at as one people, they were also different people. And some of them holding spiritual truths reserved from the rest of the civilizations who had not gained that knowledge to that point. Because spirituality amongst people is a way of human beings graduating. Because it is the spiritual knowledge and wisdom that is carried on since time immemorial that give the human beings the maturity they need to be able to cooperate with one another and have civilized interactions with each other. Otherwise, it's just a fight for life. Like animals that are fighting, the strong live and the weak die. We live off each other's flesh, you know. That's animal life. I better cut it off. I got things we need to do. There won't be any prashadam if we leave it alone.
Okay.
The kids will come in. Any comments, any questions, any realizations? I hope that kind of sheds light on that, because they do, you know, I had told this story before. We have a post office not too far, just down the block. And one time I went there, I took to be a Catholic priest, which immediately, when I see a priest, in my heart I think, well, I'd love to talk with him, you know. So I approached him, but immediately upon approaching him, in his eyes, I'm a demon. He was not able to be approached by the immediate. You just have to give off the vibe and give the look.
Yeah, like a family.
Yeah.
Thinks that way too.
Yeah. And you can't even talk to them. So they cut themselves off. See, the Bible describes a point in time in which a person can have committed so many offenses that they enter into a form of consciousness, what do they call the apostate mind.
Apostate, yeah.
You can't be deterred from it, can't be changed, because God himself hardens it into that state. It can't be deterred. This is what happened with Pharaoh. Remember in the freeing, he did that with Pharaoh to harden his heart purposely. And it proves under these extreme circumstances that these demons want to take against God. The stronger they get against God, the more powerful it reveals God is when he defeats them. So in their advanced attacks against God, it's all working for God's pleasure. It all works for His good.
Yeah.
It's all designed that way. So we might as well join the side. Jai Grantha Shrimadbhagavatam. Jai Srila Prabhupada.